Hi there, this is Design Start, and today we are going to talk about layout grid. So what is layout grid? Layout grid is the way of how you can add some kind of grid or some kind of columns to your frame, and this basically allows you to use it as a reference module or reference lines to align your design with. I will provide some context and you can understand better this one. So to use layout grids, you need to create a frame first, and then you select this frame, and here you can see the layout grid section, so you can add it, and you see the first option. So the first option for layout grid is an actual grid, which, as you can see, it's a well-distributed grid of small objects. And basically how you can use that, if you draw some shapes, it's a rectangle, like this grid could be a reference point for your rectangle. So you can use this grid as a module while you're building your designs. You can control this grid, so you can control the size. You can make it bigger, smaller, depending on your need. You can change the color of this object, and you can change the transparency. As you can see, the grid is selected here. To make sure that you see this one, you need to go to View and make sure that Layout Grids is selected, because otherwise it will be invisible and it will be hidden. Now, what else do you have here? You have here columns. So columns, by default, they have type stretch, which basically distributes columns evenly, depending on how much do you have of those. Like you can have 5, 6, 7, whatever you prefer. Let's make it 12. Again, you can control their color and transparency, and then you can also control the distance between them, right? So it could be less, it could be more. Now we have more colors, so we have center, and in this case you also can control the width of each column, right and left. Again, this is more for alignment of the object. In the majority of cases, probably you will use this option, and this actually widely used in website design, because a lot of websites are using 12 columns approach, which comes from Bootstrap approach, basically. And this is like the reference for your website. So for instance, you may imagine that here we have some kind of like a hero section. Then we have like a couple of some like objects, like points. Then you may have, for instance, another section which will be like image and some text here, for instance. Let's do it like that, right? So you can imagine for what reason should we use this object. Basically, this layout grid is attached to the frame, so it's not like editable as a shape. It's just for the reference for you to design something. You can see that basically it's allow you to like design things quite easily using these reference points. And in any case, you can remove them if you want to, but this basically provides the possibility to do this very easily. Let's remove all of those things, and another option is the same. Basically, it's rows. It works exactly in the same way as with the case with layout grids. So again, you can change it to stretch. You can use also margins the same way as with columns, and basically you work in the same way. So imagine you need this for some references, and then you can draw some objects that will be located with the help of these horizontal lines for whatever purpose you think is good. As with a lot of cases for this kind of tools, you also may notice that here you can add another basically layer for layout grid. So for instance, I can add another one, and you can see that we have a grid here, and then we can another, for instance, it could be a columns, and for instance, I want it to be centered like that. So here you can see that we can create like interesting grid layout system, and then basically create some designs based on this system. So we have some kind of a module, like very complex one, that allows us to create interesting shape, and everything will be like proportionally right distributed, etc., etc., which probably is more crucial for interesting designs. Maybe like a very interesting website with interesting layout, or maybe some presentations, etc., etc. So this is very helpful, and of course you can basically set up different colors for to understand better on what are you looking at, right? And you can change the transparency, so you can see how easily how to work with that very easily. That's all for layout grid, and see you in the next videos.